how to master your autonomous visual testing with Cypress. This will be pretty interesting topic, and nowadays a lot of people talk about autonomous testing, and also visual testing is getting more and more mature and pretty standard practice in our software testing teams. So I would like to combine all these ideas and share with you some thoughts about that topic. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Marcel Veselka. I am co-founder and CEO of Wopee.io, the company where we believe we will change how we are testing web apps. And before that, I was also working for Tesena, and I'm also co-founder of Tesena company providing testing services and also helping other companies to do better testing. And before that, I was working on various positions in a banks as a test manager, tester, test automation engineer. And also I contribute into a couple of, I would say, communities, or I was volunteering in various initiatives like Hitchhikers Online in Slovakia, or testing community called Protest here in Czech Republic, in Prague, and later also in Moravia. So let me now move on to the topic and agenda what I prepared for today. So I would like to cover basically 4 areas, and that's something about autonomous testing. I keep talking about this topic for last 2, maybe even more years. Then I would like to cover visual testing and explain what is that all about and why this might be useful for you and what are the use cases where you could benefit from that approach. Then I will follow with introducing or explaining how we could implement these ideas in Cypress. And then I will also cover some examples and demo it in Wopee.io. And at the end, I'll also share with you some ideas which I'm prototyping now. It's not like code yet or code-based yet, but I believe that could be a nice inspiration for you if you would need that to build it by yourself, or we could help you with that because this is one of the offer or one of our product we are offering to our customers. So let me now start with explaining how autonomous testing works, or what's that all about. And let me start with very brief and short explanation of it. I have like specific talks about the topic, so I don't want to cover that so deeply. But when we are talking nowadays about autonomous testing, a lot of definitions explaining that as a software testing without humans or humanless testing. I don't believe we are at that stage yet. We could maybe cover some simple scenarios without human involvement, but there is still a human in a loop, and I think still humans drives the software testing activities nowadays, but we are trying to simplify and make it more automated. Another like approach, or I wouldn't call it other approach, but a lot of people believe that this could happen only when we augment our software testing practice by AI. Nowadays, AI is becoming more synonym for LLM models or these big or large language models. In the past, we were also talking about a lot of machine learning algorithms. Nowadays, the LLMs are so cheap, quick, and also easy to implement that people probably leaving the ideas of implementing machine learning. Maybe there are some exceptions, but most of the discussions are around LLMs. And I'll be also talking about that today, later. So when we are talking about autonomous testing itself, I believe this is not like a new era where anything else would end up and autonomous testing would start. For me, it's rather journey from traditional testing into more autonomous testing approach, where we are focused to simplify and reduce human involvement from our traditional manual, but also automated testing. Sometimes we are joking, saying that even the automated tests are too manual because we need to create test cases, we need to somehow plan them, execute them, analyzing results, and so on. And there is plenty of manual effort involved into automation. So this autonomous testing idea basically deal with all manual efforts in both manual testing and automation, and searching for approach or strategy, or practice if you wish, how to make it more automatic. By this slide, and you might know this, I'm trying to explain that this journey starts a couple of years ago, where we introduced manual testing, and later it was followed by automation, when we believe that that's the solution, and we will completely replace manual testing. But this turns into understanding that that might be a pretty stupid idea, and automation is a great tool, but it's not replacement, but rather a way how to support some quality assurance practices. Of course, we could reduce a lot of efforts from traditional testing by introducing automation, but there are some cases we still need to keep manual testing. And the next era or next stage might be autonomous testing. But as I said, this will be, and I believe this will be addition to the original introduced manual and automated tests. So that's basically it. There are a couple of other ideas, like there are 5 levels or 6 levels, I would say, from 0 to 5 of autonomous testing. maturity. There are a couple of articles from Gartner and Forrester, and also some other tool vendors issuing some blog posts about the topic. So if you would be interested, try to find some other video where I'm explaining autonomous testing. But for now, this should be good enough explanation. So this is autonomous testing. It's just our efforts to search for better and more automated approaches in automation. So how we could reduce and simplify what we are doing to test more, test quicker, and boost our testing. Now let me quickly cover another topic of my talk, and then we will start combining these, and it's visual testing. So what this visual testing means and why we are doing that activities, or why we should introduce something like that. So let me first explain the problem, what the problem or risk we might mitigate by introducing visual testing. Imagine that you have some checkout page like this one, where you need to provide card details, click on the purchase button, and validate that you've got the correct response. You got the correct confirmation page. So to do so, probably you might start writing something like this. In Cypress, that would be a couple of Cypress get commands with type, where I'm selecting individual fields from the form, then providing also card or the card holder name, expiration data, CVC, and so on, and then clicking on the purchase button. And my assert would just check whether in some div class with name confirmation, I'm getting message, thank you for your order. So this is pretty straightforward, simple test. Maybe I could consider to package this into some page object to call one single method to fill in the data and submit the form. For some people from Cypress community, this is not a good idea. And some people, especially the ones coming from the Selenium world, might say, no, this is a good and still a valid approach for Cypress as well. But that's not the topic for today. So once I have this, what might happen is that instead of the screen we expect, I'm getting something like this. It looks like it might be completely broken, maybe it's okay, but I lost entire page and the only thing I'm getting is the message. And you might say, okay, but this is still good. But if I'm running my regression test and validating this one, probably I should somehow cover also something else than this message. And there was a lot of discussion, and I was using this example for some other talks, and that was pretty nice, provoked thought after my talk, what and how need to be added to the test, or where it should be added to make this better. So should I check whether header is available? Should I check within this test also whether the footer is available? Or should I even check whether this return button I could see on the screen? So I could introduce maybe 3 more lines of code to add it here. Another one proposed from the discussion that maybe we should introduce some more test cases to cover this and not putting it into each and every test case where we are testing checkout process. So maybe I could add some more test cases, not asserts, but test cases. So there are a couple of options how to cover that. But what we would introduce with this is that we would have more code to maintain, but not only maintain, but also to build. So I'm not sure whether this validation of these extra things by adding more code into our test cases would help. And I believe this is not the only solution. There might be yours. You might maybe comment via chat. What is your opinion about this? Or just when you are not here and watching the recording, you might send me an email with your opinion. But there are some other options. And one might be to introduce visual testing. So let me now explain why this idea of visual testing or visual validation, if you wish, could be a good one. And I have also then explanation why this might not be a good idea. So first one, imagine that you have this screen. Whenever you release new features, you probably need to check whether this form works. And as from the previous example, you might get something like this. And the traditional approach might be that, okay, but this still is functional, it might work. But the traditional user or manual, real user, I would say, cannot see this pay button on which is white on the right side. So probably that they wouldn't proceed further with the screen, even if it would be functional. So this is one of the use cases where the visual testing might show us some issues. And especially when you are releasing too often, you don't want to do this manually. Of course, you can collect some screenshots and then check them later in a report, but this is too much of manual effort. I'll explain how this could be automated. Another one is that you might want to test a lot of validations on some registration form. And for that, you probably need to check whether all these fields has some input validation error class set to that specific element. So this is pretty long list of asserts, maybe 12 if I remember it when I was counting it last time. Or you could just take a screenshot and then compare against that. So you might save pretty long list of lines of code to build and maintain, and maybe this could be more stable in a case that if this will fail, you just approve new baseline, which is the expected result, and then you move on with the test execution again. We have some customers using this approach, and they are running more than 50,000 screenshot comparison per month, and it's pretty heavy. And you can also involve easier some business users to do so because they understand the screenshots, but they might not understand Cypress code or locators we are using. So this is a second use case, or maybe if we would call it why this might be useful. A third one is that sometimes you might have a pretty complex UI and you want to just validate that this works all the time the same. And for that, you just need to set up your test data in some way and then compare the screenshot with your expected result. So collecting the screenshots and then compare your actual screenshots against these ones might be pretty powerful and efficient way. Of course, there are some buts, how to stabilize the screenshot comparison, whether to use some retries functionalities. Maybe we need to mask or hide some parts of the screenshot not to be compared against the expected one. But these all things might be handled in modern testing tools. Let me now move on why this idea might be a bit, I wouldn't say stupid, but not very wise. There are a couple of reasons why not to do that. Comparing screenshots is much slower than running code-based asserts. So if you are running some image comparison, you need to expect that it'll take some extra milliseconds or maybe even 1 second or 2 seconds. It depends on your infrastructure you are running your tests. As I said, it might be flaky because you need to run it on the same test data. This is one good practice. And another one is that you need to run it on the specific configuration, I mean browser and resolution. And also you need to maybe ignore some areas because they are too dynamic to control them via test data. And maybe the third reason why not to run automated visual testing is that if you are still running your regression testing manually, maybe your colleagues who are running that test might spot the bugs. Not always, but maybe 80% of the bugs might be spotted by manual testers, so you don't need to automate that. But I know, and some of my testing friends mentioned it a couple of times, that they are running multiple releases a day. These deliver very small, tiny new features into production, and they are counting only on automated tests. So if you are releasing 6 times or 10 times a day, you probably cannot run manual testing all the time after each and every release. So in that case, the visual testing might be pretty powerful option for you. So we covered autonomous testing, we covered visual testing, and now let me bring this into Cypress. So there are a couple of options how we could deal with that using Cypress. I will start with some simple, I call it vanilla Cypress approach, where we are not introducing anything else than existing features of Cypress. And maybe we could consider some custom plugins. But to be honest, this approach is pretty weak, but still in some simple cases might be functional. Then you could maybe consider some third-party additions like other tools, which might be open source or commercial ones. For that, I will just demo it using our tool to show you how this could work. If you never saw that approach in practice, I would like to show you some practical application. I'll also show you how to completely get rid of coding. So I have an example of fully autonomous testing. And at the end, I'll just share some ideas how to introduce more visual-based assertions into your Cypress testing. But instead of pixel perfect approach, we will use some more dynamic visual testing approach. And this is pretty interesting idea we are working on now. So if you would be interested to discuss it further, I'm happy to have some extra call. I'll share my contact details later. So this is something what we are super excited about, and I believe that might be super useful for you as well. So let me start with the vanilla approach. So what I mean by vanilla approach is, as I said, we will just use what is available in Cypress without installing anything extra. And as I said, there are not too many options. So if you would follow this idea, you could count on only validating CSS classes, or basically not only CSS classes, but using only the CSS assets and checking some colors and formatting of your application, which is not so powerful. It might be super simple and straightforward, but this does not cover all the important use cases we usually cover with our customers. So this is the simple and the most light way of covering the topic of visual testing in Cypress. Another option might be that you write your own plugin. I decide to skip this topic, and the reason is simple. Usually when you decide to write your own framework, this is super exciting era. People love it, but once your main developer leave the company, this type of frameworks usually start dying, and it's pretty risky to find some new followers or new owners of the frameworks. And usually this is the time when teams starting to considering some new tools. And I saw some nice image about that, some kind of joke that people were replacing Cypress to reduce flakiness of the test, start replacing Selenium to reduce flakiness of the test and introducing Cypress. And nowadays the story is the same, but the tools on the list are Cypress versus Playwright. So it's pretty funny that people are sometimes believe that some green some grass might be more green somewhere else, and it always look very nice. But yeah, maybe this is off topic of the building your own plugin, but this is usually a situation when someone from the team leaves, people reconsidering what might be the new tool because you are not having that great support as you had before. So I would suggest to consider something which has some community, it's standardized, it might be commercial, but there are plenty of tools which are open sourced. So what might be the tools? And I call it third-party edition. And I like the party in that title, so I decided this will be third-party edition. I would like to share with you. So there are plenty of plugins because probably a lot of vendors and also community noticed that Cypress is pretty weak to cover visual validations or visual testing. So you might consider from this list. The list could be taken from the link below. So if you're interested and would like to explore some of the tools, you could just navigate to the link below. And also Wopee provides something for you. So if you would be interested to try our tool, then at the link I will share with you, you can try Wopee visual testing as well. And I will demo it now for you, so you might quickly decide or during this webinar whether this is something for you, or you just try something else, or maybe you might ask me at the end whether or anything you are interested in. So let me provide you some examples how this works. So if you remember, I was talking about some extra one-liner which will validate whether your expected result and actual results are the same. In that area, you can use soft assert or hard assert. It means the test might only give you some warning instead of failing if you run a soft assert, but this is maybe a bit advanced feature, or it is not so advanced, but it's outside of the webinar today. But basically, whenever I want to do some validation, I just need to add cypress.wopee track and step name. I could run it at the end of the test, or I could run it after each and every step to see how it looks when I fill in email or password, or in my case, when I click on sign in button. So this is what I need to do to conduct some visual validation. And I've pre-recorded very short demo videos to show you how this could work. So imagine that you have this Cypress test prepared. If I would start from the beginning, you can see that I have some test suite name, some test case name, which is basically CY Wopee.io integration first run. And in this case, I'm running test from line 20, where the test name is called correct login minimalistic. So I have some couple of examples to demo it for you, but this is the simplest example where I navigate to webpage dronjo.wopee.io, then I click on sign in button. And once I have it, I'm on the sign in screen. I fill in email and password. Then I click on sign in, and then I call our Wopee track command to take a screenshot and send it to our backend. And you can see that the screenshot on the right side is stored after login. And this screenshot is taken during or at the end of the test execution. And once it is done, and I don't know whether you were able to follow what I'm talking about and also what happened on the video, but I was clicking on that approval button. So I am setting this screenshot as our baseline, or you can call it also expected result if you wish. And next time when I run this test, I will compare actual screenshot against this one. So let me share with you how it looks. This is just a short explanation that I clicked on that approve button, and then status was turned into approved. And when I run it again, I will change the name of test suite to make it clear that we will get another row on the right side where you could see another test execution. And this test suite has a different name. Let me rerun the test. And what will happen is that I will take the same screenshot and let our backend compare these two. You'll see it soon here. So that's finished, and you can see that we've got the new run, and this new run is now with status OK. If you remember last time, there was not status OK, but approved. You can see it here. But for the next run, I already compared the expected and actual result screenshots, and because these are the same, it's just automatically assessed as OK. So this is the principle of how basically all the visual testing tools work, or 90% of visual testing tool works. So this is, I believe, clear how I could validate it. And in my case, I do not need to change the test suite name, but for the demo purposes, I did that. So whenever I run the test, I'm just checking whether the screenshot didn't change, and if not, then I'm happy to continue with the next scenario. I'm trying to a bit zoom in and show you how it looks. You might notice that the login button, the blue top right button, is now log out. And when I try to zoom it a bit, then you can see that the logout button is there. So the screenshot was taken after login. And of course, I could do a lot of stuff on this screen. Like I could select the region which might be ignored using this button, or I could also see some comparison of these two screens if there would be different. So let me now show you another use case where these screens are different. So you might see now the gallery picture or gallery page, and you could see that the screens are different. So what I could do, I could compare the screenshots, and I could see all the differences. In this case, it's pretty simple and maybe straightforward that you don't need to use the tool to show you this red comparison, but in some cases it might be super small and you might need that to see where is the change. But in our case, this is clear. If you would like to test that, it's the simplest way to do so is to navigate to Commander, as we call it, our front end to administer this, .wopee.io, create your user account, and you can run your Cypress tests with Wopee. Later, maybe with the recording or after this webinar, I will also share with you a link to documentation so you can set it up by yourself. We have no time to do it now, but what I would like to invite you to do, maybe if you are with us, just navigate there and create your own account, or pause this video and create account while you are watching this recording. And you can follow me later when I will be running the second demo. And for that, you just need to use GitHub, GitLab, or Google to log in, and that will be super simple to follow me later. So this Wopee visual testing feature is available for Cypress, Playwright, Robot Framework, Selenium in general, and WebDriver as well. We have also some Python and JavaScript SDK. So if you are using some other tools, it should be easy to implement or integrate with your toolset. And I believe this is something that might be interesting for you, but I would like to share some more with you. And that's how we could maybe get rid of any coding, because in some complex scenarios, you might need to write your Cypress tests. But if you're running some visual tests or visual smoke test, in that case, we are also providing a visual testing bot to do it for you. So it generates tests for you, and it also runs it for you to explore the report. And this is something that we call vision, or Wopee vision. And we believe that we could build in the future a tool where you provide just URL and you will get test report back. And we know that this is true nowadays only for super simple scenarios. And we know that our first customers believe the idea and support it. So we are searching for some first implementation opportunities. So if you feel like you would like to try, I'm inviting you to do it by yourself, or we could have a chat later to do it together. So how it works? Basically, once you provide some URL, we start exploring your website. And based on that, we generate the test cases and we could run them. During that test design and test build, you need to validate the screenshots and check whether we collect the proper scenario. So you also vote for the best ones, and then you are getting some dashboard with the results. But maybe that's easier to, rather than theoretical slide, I would like to share with you how this could work. So imagine that you have something like this. You are logged in into our Commander. That's our platform, and you create your new project for a bot. So you provide the URL and click on the button to analyze your project or your application under the test. Once this happens, we are running our bot. This bot executes the potential path through the application. And in 2 minutes later, you're getting some list of potential test cases. These test cases are considered the correct one because we think, okay, if this is the regression test suite and someone already finished the regression testing manually, now it's the time to set it up and be ready for the future releases. So we basically learn from your app how it should behave, generate the test cases, approve them all, and now it's your time to just quickly explore whether these are the ones you would like to run. And then optionally, apart from this ad hoc exploration and review, whether you are happy with the test cases, you could also vote for the best ones. So you might say, okay, this is the best test case I want to really run every time. And this might not be so valuable for us. So maybe I will even give some negative votes. Both these options, the exploration of the existing tests generated and voting for the best scenarios, are now manual processes. And we are still keep adding more and more automation there. So probably in the future or in near future, we will be able to provide you some priorities of the test cases. But this is not there yet, so you might optionally set up some priorities for the test cases. Once this is done, you might say, okay, but this looks pretty simple, and what about some other use cases? So I wanted to just share with you that we, of course, support some more complex situations, like probably you need to accept cookies or use some login credentials. So this all could be set up via configuration, via the commander. The UI is already providing such a feature, so you can set it up there. Maybe you might want to ignore some content, and I already mentioned that. You might use some locators to say, okay, this is the Twitter feed. I don't have that under my control, and I cannot set up some static data, test data there. So this need to be ignored. So you might set some ignore areas, or you might even say, I don't want to what to click on this particular button or navigate to this page and so on. And of course, you could run some more complex scenarios and non-visual validation. I will be maybe talking about it later if you would be interested. Most of these are still under some prototyping, and we are releasing it for our first early customers. So if you would be interested to apply it for your use case, then we are happy to talk to you. And once this will be like generally functional, then we will build it as a part of our platform. But once you set up all the things, the regression tests are ready. So what you could do now, you just click button start testing, and you might run your test cases, and you might see that each and every step you execute, you have the screenshot compared, and if they are same, the test is automatically set to be okay. So you can see some regression tests with results in this view. So this is how Wopee could support you when you need to cover visual testing. So you have two options. One, you just and I would say enhance or augment your existing Cypress code, or you just run as a complementary tool our bot to collect the screenshots and then validate that all is okay. As I was talking about these couple of releases a day with some automated regression tests, this bot approach might be good enough for you. So you are running it as a complementary approach to a Cypress test. If it's not good enough because you have some complex scenarios or you need to do some database feeds before you do anything or setting up databases, then the Cypress NPM package we are providing might be the right solution for you. I said there are more than 15 additional tools you could consider, but we are happy to help you with that as well. So let me now start with some additional ideas. When I was talking about human-less testing or AI augmented testing, here are some ideas maybe which you could integrate into your Cypress tests. And this is related to the custom plugin building, because this is what you could do as one of the option for you. And for that, let me start with some inspiration. And the inspiration comes from various angles. One is that some of our early customers or users ask me whether they could test something like asking our tool whether there is something on the screen, like has this car plate covered by black rectangle? And you might say, okay, but this is not visual testing, because traditional visual testing is just something like pixel comparison. And some more advanced tools like Applitools might say, okay, visual testing is something like they call it AI visual testing, but it's not really. It's just some kind of augmentation of the comparison of the screens, where they could do the magic, if I could call it in that way, that it's more stable. But there are plenty of other options how to do that. But this one is a bit further from there. And I would like to share with you how I came into that by sharing something what I already built for some other webinar, and that's integrating Cypress with some LLM models. In my case, I used OpenAI, but there are more than 10 other options. I just collect the list maybe in May, so last month, for some masterclass session where we discussed Playwright and BDD approach. But in this case, I was using OpenAI, GPT, but I was using it via REST API, and I was getting some JSON response from it. So I provide GPT model some nice prompt, page or HTML of the page I was testing, and then I was expecting some JSON file. So it worked in a way that I had my own Cypress command, like Wopee fill form, and I was able to run this against almost any UI, and I was getting interesting instructions. So this was something I said, okay, so for the navigation, it's clear. I could run dynamic, like plain English instructions using Cypress, like navigate to login page or Wopee fill form, to get some specific instructions, which then I could interpret back in Cypress and fill forms or click on some elements and so on. But what if I would, instead of HTML, provide bitmap? And how I could use that, because this is for the navigation, this is pretty good because Cypress is based on navigation through the DOM. But for the assets, maybe I could use the pictures. So what I did, I took this WooCommerce plugin. For those who don't know what is a WooCommerce, it's a plugin to WordPress, and you can run your own e-commerce. So I took this screenshot, and it's pretty messy. There's a bit of English, bit of Slovak, and bit of Czech language, and I'm using Czech crowns as a currency. So it might be a bit complicated. And then after uploading this, I ask pretty simple question, or I instruct the model, explain what is on the image. And I could see that I've got pretty decent response, even with some translation and explanation what is on the screen. So this brings me into a next experiment, and I was asking about how many products are on the in the cart. Of course, you can see that even my English is a bit messy. I've got pretty interesting answer. So this brings me into an idea that I could build some simple assertions based on the visuals, which are not comparing only entire picture, but these asserts my questioning the entire screen. And the next stage of this experiment is that now we are working on some code-based approach, so you can call it easily from Cypress, as I explained in previous example about the navigation. But I wanted to bring it as early as possible to you because I believe this might be interesting for you, and you can build your own plugin validating based on visuals, but not comparing the pictures. So that would be it. I was trying to cover a couple of topics. One was, what is the autonomous testing? Second was, what is visual testing? Then we were covering also how we could introduce that into Cypress, and maybe also how we could introduce it as a complementary approach without even coding in Cypress. And at the end, I share some ideas how we could proceed further with this visual testing. And I believe this is not out there. So none of the tools I was listing out there have this type of feature. So I believe this might be interesting for you to build it by your own, or just wait for other features to be released very soon. With that, I would like to thank you very much for your time. As I mentioned, we have a couple of other approaches, ideas. We are running a lot of prototypes, pilot projects, and so on. So if you would be interested to work with us, these are some links. You can schedule some call with me, and we can discuss and explore how we could help you. Or I'm happy to discuss with you to learn from you. So if you have anything to share, let's jump on the call and we can discuss that. Or if you want to just follow what we are working on nowadays and what we are building, you can follow our journey on the LinkedIn, just following Wopee company page. And with that, I would like to end here. Thank you. And I'm ready for the questions. Thank you very much for joining us today. And I hope you enjoyed that as I did.